Before any object is created, usually it's drawn by an artist. Learning how to draw in boxes help you see the front of the object, the side, the back, and the bottom and top. This is my start of recreating the toy you actually saw in the first half. Boxes are very helpful to help you understand what the front, the sides, the back is. Now, it's kind of hard to draw boxes at first if you don't practice it, so I'm going to show you a practical way, but I'm also showing you now how our class assignments have been helpful. This is contour drawing. Now I'm using negative space. Here is how I get to see the world above and below. We have a horizon line which is invisible. It's right between your eyes and your nose. If you had glasses on, the part that goes on your nose, that is your center line. And if you were to look to the left and the right of your glasses, that's how far you can see. So this is a small version of supposedly the depth of field or cone of vision you can see. I always have the floor at the bottom of the T, and of course the ceiling. In this case, I wrote the roof. And anything that radiates from the center point, that is called a vanishing point. I'm going to put a big dot in the middle to represent the vanishing point. And you can see it already has V's. So it kind of like says what it is, the vanishing point. A simple way of calling it is the depth line. So I always think of height, width, and depth. The tall line, the center of your nose, that is the height. The horizon line and the width line is left to right. That's the invisible line. I put the floor first so I could always see, let's say, the front of the box. Of course, anything going closer to the horizon line is going towards the back. Now, it's not always easy to see a box, so this is my simple form of drawing it. I'm only showing you a neutral form, what it looks like if the box is below the horizon line and what the box is on top in this case. You're always going to see the top of the box if the horizon line is above. If you're right on the horizon line, you're usually going to see just a head-on view. It kind of looks like a post-it note. Now, some of these lines you can see I didn't follow the horizon line. I'm sorry, the depth line. The lines radiating from the dot. And you can see that the box looks a little wonky. But the more you practice and the more you do, it becomes easier. Now, the width and the height always look like an L, and the depth line always falls on the V lines, the radiating lines. It takes practice to really get this, but again, start with drawing a T, then draw the radiating lines. Anything that is tall is going to be vertical, up and down. Anything that is a width is always going to be left to right. And you're always going to need a front and a back to that. Meaning if you look on the top where it says roof, the width line, there's 3 of them. They're going left to right. The depth line is going to point towards that dot. And the height line is always up and down. It never changes no matter what you draw. Well, this is really sloppy. But again, I'm starting with the T. Then I'm doing the depth lines. And anything that sits directly on the horizon line, you're usually not going to see the top. It's kind of going to be so narrow that you barely see much of it. I could have made that box a lot smaller, but I made it wider. It depends on what you're looking at in life. These classes are about drawing from life. So understanding how it fits in your viewpoints is really important. So for instance, in the mannequin drawing I did yesterday of negative space, the mannequin I was looking at was actually on my left. So if you imagine this T line in the center of my face where the glasses would sit, the bridge, it's on the left of me. So height, width, and depth. These are me just pointing out the fact that these lines never change. Height is always up and down, width is always left to right, and depth points towards that vanishing point. Another note is if you can learn to draw a box, you can draw a room. So right now we're drawing actual things that sit in front of us, but you can also use this to draw backgrounds for a room. Now that you've seen how to draw a box, the object, the toy that you saw in the first half, you will notice that I am looking at her. She is sitting on my right side of my eye. The mannequin you saw last time in negative space was on my left. Here is a more practical look of a box going above and below the horizon line. You can see that the top of the box is going to disappear somewhat where my finger is. And now you see the bottom. Every time it crosses the imaginary line, you see a different part of the box, whether it's the top or the bottom. But if it's on the horizon line, you usually just see it kind of like a post-it note. Now moving the box to the left or the right, you can see how the sides now come into play because it's sitting towards your left eye or your right eye. The box, that is. So every time something is in front of you and you're drawing, always try to think if you can fit it in a box because it'll help you recreate it even from imagination. I started rotating the box here and you can see how difficult drawing a box in space could be. But if you really slow it down and you focus on the T method that I was showing you, you can still get a rotating box a lot easier to draw, that is.